Hey there, humans! Welcome back. I hope you've been having a good week so far, good summer. It's been a little bit, but I'm hoping to jump right back into our fantasy fiction novel, The Tale of Despereaux. Last time we read chapters 1 and 2, and we learned a little bit about Despereaux as a baby and his family. Today we're going to at least read chapters 3 and 4. We'll probably even get to number 5 because these chapters are really short. So, without any further ado, I'd like to get into chapter 3 in The Tale of Despereaux, Once Upon a Time. Despereaux's siblings tried to educate him in the ways of being a mouse. His brother, Furlough, took him on a tour of the castle to demonstrate the art of scurrying. "Move side to side," instructed Furlough, scrabbling across the waxed castle floor. "Look over your shoulder all the time. First to the right, then to the left, then to the right again. Don't stop for anything." But Despereaux wasn't listening to Furlough. He was staring at the light pouring in through the stained glass windows of the castle. He stood on his hind legs and held his handkerchief to his heart and stared up, up, up into the brilliant light. "Furlough," he said, "what is this thing? What are all these colors? Are we in heaven?" "Gripes!" shouted Furlough from a far corner. "Don't stand there in the middle of the floor talking about heaven. Move! You're a mouse, not a man. You've got to scurry." "What?" said Despereaux, still staring at the light. But Furlough was gone. He had, like a good mouse, disappeared into a hole in the molding. Despereaux's sister, Merlot, took him into the castle library, where light came streaming in through tall, high windows and landed on the floor in bright yellow patches. "Here," said Merlot, "come follow me. My small brother and I will instruct you on the fine points of how to nibble paper." Merlot scurried up a chair and from there hopped onto a table on which there sat a huge open book. "This way, small brother," she said as she crawled onto the pages of the book, and Despereaux followed her from the chair to the table to the page. "Now then," said Merlot, "this glue here is tasty, and the paper edges are crunchy and yummy, like so." She nibbled on the edge of a page and then looked over at Despereaux. "You try." Despereaux looked down at the book, and something remarkable happened. The marks on the pages, the squiggles, arranged themselves into shapes. The shapes arranged themselves into words, and the words spelled out a delicious and wonderful phrase: "Once upon a time." "Once upon a time," whispered Despereaux. "What?" said Merlot. Nothing." "Eat," said Merlot. "Oh, I couldn't possibly," said Despereaux, backing away from the book. "Why?" Said Despereaux, "it would ruin the story." "The story? What story?" Merlot stared at him. A piece of paper trembled at the end of one of her indignant whiskers. "It's just like Pa said when you were born. Something is not right with you." She turned and scurried from the library to tell her parents about this latest disappointment. Despereaux waited until she was gone, and then he reached out with one paw and touched the lovely words, "Once upon a time." He shivered. He sneezed. Achoo! He blew his nose into his handkerchief. "Once upon a time," he said aloud, relishing the sound. And then, tracing each word with his paw, he read the story of a beautiful princess and the brave knight who serves and honors her. Despereaux did not know it, but he would need, very soon, to be brave himself. Have I mentioned that beneath the castle there was a dungeon? And in the dungeon there were rats, large rats, mean rats. Despereaux was destined to meet those rats. Reader, you must know that an interesting fate, sometimes involving rats, sometimes not, awaits almost everyone, mouse or man, who does not conform. That's the end of chapter 3. We've got a pretty picture here. You can see the book that Merlot was trying to get Despereaux to nibble on and crunch and eat, and our little Despereaux finding the story. Let's go to chapter 4. Chapter 4. Enter the Pea. Despereaux's brothers and sisters soon abandoned the thankless task of trying to educate him in the ways of being a mouse. And so, Despereaux was free. He spent his days as he wanted. He wandered through the rooms of the castle, staring dreamily at the light streaming in through the stained glass windows. He went to the library and read over and over again the story of the fair maiden and the knight who rescued her. And he discovered, finally, the source of the honey-sweet sound. The sound was music. The sound was King Philip playing his guitar and singing to his daughter, the Princess Pea, every night before she fell asleep. Hidden in a hole in the wall of the princess's bedroom, the mouse listened with all his heart. The sound of the king's music made Despereaux's soul grow large and light inside of him. "Oh," he said, "it sounds like heaven. It smells like honey." He stuck his left ear out of the hole in the wall so he could hear the music better. And then he stuck his right ear out so he could hear better still. And it wasn't too long before one of his paws followed his head, and then another paw, and then, without any real planning on Despereaux's part, the whole of him was on display, all in an effort to get closer to the music. Now, while Despereaux did not indulge in many of the normal behaviors of mice, he did adhere to one of the most basic and elemental of all mice rules. Do not ever, under any circumstances, reveal yourself to humans. But the music made him lose his head and act against the few small mouse instincts he had. And because of this, he revealed himself, and in no time at all, he was spied by the sharp-eyed Princess P. "Oh, Papa," she said, "look, a mouse." The king stopped singing. He squinted. The king was nearsighted. That is, anything that was not right in front of his face was very difficult for him to see. "Where?" said the king. "There," said the Princess P. She pointed. "That, my dear, is a bug, not a mouse. It is much too small to be a mouse." No, it's a mouse." "A bug," said the king, who liked to be right. "A mouse," said P, who knew that she was right. As for Despereaux, he was beginning to realize that he had made a very grave error. He trembled, he shook, he sneezed, achoo! He considered fainting. "Oh, he's frightened," said the P. "Look, he's so afraid he's shaking. I think he was listening to the music. Play something, Papa." "A king play music for a bug?" King Philip wrinkled his forehead. "Is that proper, do you think? Wouldn't that make this into some sort of topsy-turvy, wrong-headed world if a king played music for a bug?" "Papa, I told you, he's a mouse," said the P. "Please." "Oh, well, if it will make you happy, I, the king, will play music for a bug." "A mouse," corrected the P. The king adjusted his heavy gold crown. He cleared his throat. Ahem. He strummed the guitar and started to sing a song about stardust. The song was as sweet as light shining through stained glass windows, as captivating as a story in a book. Despereaux forgot all his fear. He only wanted to hear the music. He crept closer, and then closer still, until, reader, he was sitting right at the foot of the king. Chapter 5. What Furlough Saw. The Princess P looked down at Despereaux. She smiled at him, and while her father played another song, a song about the deep purple falling over sleepy garden walls, the princess reached out and touched the top of the mouse's head. Despereaux stared up at her in wonder. The P, he decided, looked just like the picture of the fair maiden in the book in the library. The princess smiled at him again. This time, Despereaux smiled back. And then something incredible happened. The mouse fell in love. Reader, you may ask, in fact, you must ask this question. Is it ridiculous for a very small, sickly, big-eared mouse to fall in love with a beautiful human princess named P? The answer is yes. Of course it's ridiculous. Love is ridiculous. But love is also wonderful and powerful, and Despereaux's love for the Princess P would prove in time to be all of these things: powerful, wonderful, and ridiculous. "You're so sweet," said the princess to Despereaux. "You're so tiny." As Despereaux looked up at her adoringly, Furlough happened to scurry past the princess's room, moving his head left to right, right to left, and back and forth. "Cripes!" said Furlough. He stopped staring into the princess's room. His whiskers became tight as a bowstring. What Furlough saw was Despereaux Tilling sitting at the foot of the king. What Furlough saw was Princess P touching the top of his brother's head. "Cripes!" shouted Furlough again. "Oh, Cripes! He's nuts! He's a goner!" And, executing a classic scurry, Furlough went to tell his father, Lester Tilling, the terrible, unbelievable news of what he had just seen. And I think that's where we're going to stop today. That was 3 chapters in our fantasy fiction book, The Tale of Despereaux. If you want to read this on your own and you just can't wait to keep reading with me, always check out your local library. You could probably find these at school, or hang out and we can read together some more. Otherwise, thanks for listening. Keep reading. Bye, humans.